circle is online learning and a tiny dot is experiential learning, okay? That's what we see in education today. What we're going to see, the future of education, those three circles are going to be the same size and they will lock in a Venn diagram. And as Doug was saying, sometimes kids are going to be in classrooms, sometimes they're going to be online, and sometimes they're going to be in real world environments. And those things can blend together so that they are not purely separate from one another, but they may be in some cases, but in other cases they may be complementing each other as part of that learning experience.
So it doesn't have to be an either or.
No.
It does not have to be at all. No, and we're a great example of that.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, I mean, you think about this, you think about the number of kids that are at Pinkerton, and then, and Doug is saying that the majority of those kids are going to be experiencing real world opportunities, you know, in the greater Derry area, and you know, I'm working with Manchester. Our project in Manchester is called 1,000 Mentors for Manchester. So in Manchester, they've got 16,000 kids. And the superintendent of schools is saying, we want every single Manchester student experiencing at least one of these opportunities, similar to what Doug was saying. When you think about the operationalization of that, that's significant, because now you have to pull in all what are the assets of the area? What are the science-based assets of the area? The math assets, the fitness assets, the language arts, etc. And how do we pull them in? How do we show them what it is that we're expecting for them to provide for our kids? How do we make this a valuable experience for our business community? Is this how we ultimately put them in touch with their future employees? That's a goal, right? I mean, you know, we're trying to make it so that
that's certainly one of the goals. Yeah, absolutely.
That is a goal. Is to make it so that we ultimately become, the schools ultimately become the eHarmony that matches kids' interests to workforce needs.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, because we've talked about how competency-based learning can be really great for students and engaging, people, and reducing dropout rate, getting people engaged, and owning their own educational learning. But talk a little bit more about how this benefits the business community. I've heard you mention perhaps using it as kind of a feeder system, perhaps, or training the future workforce. But can both of you expand on that a little bit?
We're doing it now. I mean, we've got a lot of organizations right now, and we were just running some rough numbers. The kind of business partnerships that Pinkerton has, due to its size, largest school in the state in a variety of different categories, hundreds of different businesses, and some of them are very willing to say, gee, we have a workforce problem. Why can't we use this sort of thing in a very legal way to be able to see what sort of talent do we have within our schools? How can we start drawing them in? You're hearing that in the news. You're hearing, gee, we don't have enough workers, especially as Fred indicated in the area of manufacturing. Other areas too, but let's just talk about manufacturing. Many manufacturers are stepping up saying, why don't we just start tapping a lot stronger into the secondary school system, seeing what they have for skills, paying them now, helping their training, helping their post-secondary payment, and off we go. And now I've developed my workforce. We need to be doing more of that. As a society, New Hampshire can really be in a great position. We're a small state, we have a lot of diversity, but we're seeing that. Pinkerton Academy is taking advantage in a very positive way of organizations wanting to do that across just about every career cluster that there is. So it's a great way for organizations to say, let's try this. Let's develop our future workforce.
Now, New Hampshire has a structural problem. We have a graying state. We have our kids leaving New Hampshire because they think that the jobs that they want are not here. So in so many cases, they just don't know of the opportunities that exist. And shame on us if we're not putting a serious effort into showing them what opportunities are here, and trying to keep our kids when they finish their high school experience, keep them here in New Hampshire. It is a problem for New Hampshire. it's actually a problem for the entire Northeast. The Northeast is on a multi-decade decline in its ability to attract high-growth companies to the state. And as a result, it's not easy. It becomes harder for kids to see, yeah, this is where I'm going to work. So we have to put that effort into cultivating our workforce. So right now we've got lots of high-tech companies that can't find the employees they need to grow. And as a result, they consider moving sometimes, which makes it even worse. So to get the workforce that they need, there are two primary options. One of them is, you import them from someplace else. That's the conversation around the train that that New Hampshire is having. The other one is to grow our own. And if the system that we've all grown up in was successful at growing our own, it would be doing it now. And obviously it's not successful at growing our own. So we have to think about, put real thought, getting educators and business folks at the table on a meaningful way, not just showing up for a meeting, but actually a process of thinking this through and putting together an effective plan that says this is how we are going to grow our own.
Doug, can you talk a little bit about how we're growing our own here in Derry and the region?
Yeah.
What kind of partnerships?
I mean, there are a lot of things other than the kinds of things we've mentioned where there's pay involved. I mean, people kind of relate, oh my gosh, if I do something like this, I must hire. I must establish new W-2. Some organizations are willing to do that. They have the capacity to do that. It's a great way to start. We take advantage of that, and that's a great thing. There are many other interventions way before that. The state has a great manufacturing week program. That's an outstanding way. There are many other kinds of early interventions. I can hire an intern, quote unquote, by bringing them in. 6 stages of legality that we can actually use. That way an organization in New Hampshire can try them out before they actually buy them. And there's many ways that they can say, not only is this student or series of students good for my organization, do I actually want to go down the path of funding this in the future? And I can experience that. And that's how organizations can start taking advantage in a positive and legal way without necessarily a whole lot, if any, capital outlay.
If any.
If any. Yeah. I mean, that's really an important aspect of this.
They don't have to pay them.
Right.
Okay? I've talked to some folks in the plumbing and heating business who've said, we're so desperate for employees, we will pay them. And so a kid could and not only will we pay them, we'll put them on a path to getting their license.
Right.
So if you can imagine in high school, a kid that, here's an option for a course for credit, plumbing and heating, okay? We'll pay you and we'll put you on a path to getting a license. That's potentially life-changing for a bunch of kids.
And as a school, to answer your question, as a school, we are embracing the whole idea of pre-graduation industry certifications, unlike many other schools within the state. And this is directly in line with that. Now students can get all that sort of field experience. ProStart, for example, they can start getting field experience in the culinary environment without necessarily having to go through that pay exchange, but it directly relates to their certification, and it leads them on a path to success. And the list goes on and on and on. There are many industry certifications. We embrace that a lot. That's yet another example of being able to do that. It's a long and varied list, which is good.
Yeah, can you imagine in high school getting certified in a whole bunch of areas? That was always viewed as post-secondary.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. What if we can start making that stuff happen while kids are in high school? Because if you take away the boundaries of the walls of the school, and time is not the issue, it's learning is the issue. And that learning can happen 12 months a year. There's no start date and a stop date. That you can be earning credits in summer, nights, whatever else. It really opens up opportunities that we could never have considered in a traditional, what they called the Carnegie system, 180 days, 7:30 to 2:30, 4 quarters, grades K through 12. If we could never have considered that stuff. We start moving into this competency-based world, and the opportunities that open up can be ultimately game-changing. And my opinion, and I admit the bias, but to me, fixing public education is the key to economic viability for America in the 21st century. That we worry about, who's nipping at our heels now. I think we start really working at making this happen, and it will propel us forward.
And there are a lot of national organizations that are looking at New Hampshire, one, because we're small, but two, because we are progressive. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of viewers probably don't realize that while there's a lot of work still to be done within the public education system, New Hampshire is looked at as a real great place because we're becoming very innovative in the way that we're trying to incorporate education in new ways that I think makes perfect sense.
Won national awards around this. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, but New Hampshire was the first state to adopt this back in 10 years ago or so?
2005. Yep. First state in the United States. And when we did that, in departments of education around the country, it sent shockwaves. It was like, holy mackerel, look what these guys have done. We made the decision, we really don't care about how long a kid sits in a class. We don't care. We don't care if the school does the teaching. We care that the student learns. We don't care how that gets done. We want our educators to be validating that in an anytime, anyplace environment. And I mean, now you have most of the states in the United States has started to move down the competency-based path. They're all going to end up doing it because it's going to be more cost-effective and better than ever.
Well, as we wrap up, and this has been a fascinating conversation, but I don't want to wrap up without letting people at home, our viewers, know, a number of whom I'm sure are owning their own businesses or managers.
Right. Yep.
How can they get involved? I'm sure some people are saying, this sounds great.
Now what do I do?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Right.
So what can people in the community do?
Well, they can certainly, you put up on the screen both Doug's and my contact information. Either
I would be happy to have a conversation. Yeah. Anybody that's within our catchment area, absolutely. They can contact me directly. And if I'm not the right person to be able to serve them, I'm absolutely going to connect them with teachers that can be or work with them.
Great. And I feel the same way that, we've got our project going on in Manchester right now, but frankly, it's not just about Manchester. Just, if we can get some good things going on in Manchester and some kids from Derry might be interested in some of those, we'll make those things happen, and
Absolutely.
vice versa.
Yep.
And so it's really what is in the region. What are the opportunities that we can make available to kids? My larger project is called 10,000 Mentors. We are looking for doctors, lawyers, accountants, manufacturers, software developers, you name it, so that we can create learning opportunities that never would have existed inside of a public system, make those available for our kids. Our theory is that when you start making all of these things available to kids, make it visible so that they can see that they have these choices, that they will decide how they want their learning. They can choose an inside of a classroom experience or an outside of a classroom experience. And I think that many kids will start to choose these outside of classroom experiences, and then the system will change. And so that's, I work on that 7 days a week. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. Fred Bramante, President of the National Center for Competency-Based Learning, and Doug Cullen, Career Coordinator at Pinkerton Academy.
Thanks for having us, Will.
As we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave us with today?
Yeah, I would suggest to businesses, don't be afraid. Try this out. We will make it safe, we'll make it legal, and we'll make it possible for you.
And we'll make it work so that it's a benefit for you.
Absolutely.
We thank you for doing it, for stepping up and being a good community member, but we want it to work for you too.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both again. And thanks to you for watching Regional Roundtable, again, a program of the Greater Derry Londonderry Chamber of Commerce. To learn more, please visit us online at gdlchamber.org. Thank you.